And joining us right now on our KTAR Newsmaker line, he is the founder and the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Joins us, Dr. Jasser. Good morning to you, although certainly a difficult time not only for all Americans, but maybe specifically for the American Muslim communities. Once again, the spotlight is shown, and some of the conversation goes back to the religion. There's no two ways around that, right?
Well, I think, make no mistake, it's difficult for the gay community right now. They've been targeted by militants. This is a war that's been declared by radical Islamists across the planet against our way of life, and they target vulnerable minorities. They have targeted those who advocate free speech, be it in Charlie Hebdo, and then against the Jewish community in synagogues, and against women, and now against the gay community. And I think as Muslims, we have to, especially in this month of Ramadan, our holiest month, look in the mirror. It's a time of atonement, a time to go beyond simply verbal condemnations and see what we need to do to keep our homeland safe and realize where the house of Islam is today in the 21st century. And it's not in the 21st century, it's in the 13th century. And the homophobia that's nonviolent certainly is directly connected to homophobia that's violent.
Well,
we see it in Iran, we see it in Saudi Arabia, and all over the world.
I was going to follow up on that. I know that not just ISIS, but other radicalized groups in the Middle East routinely target homosexual or gay communities there. I'm not trying to be overly graphic or horrific, but one of the punishments is throwing them off of buildings and things like this. So this hatred towards the gay community is part and parcel for some of these extremist organizations.
Absolutely. And this is why, one of the great things of the free world is that we celebrate the individuality and the free choice of individuals to choose their ideas, to choose their faith, to choose their sexuality. And Islamists want a tribal mentality in government. They want government to become God, and they take issues that should be debated and make it into the law. And this is why we as Muslims need to recognize that whenever Islamists get into power, their Sharia law doesn't give the gay community any rights. They kill them, they abuse them, they persecute them. And we need to recognize that mosques, like remember you and I spoke about the mosque that President Obama went to in February. One of the complaints I had was that it was a bit hypocritical for him to be going to a mosque that had a homophobic sermon online from a year earlier, where the screed was about the plague of homosexuality on the planet, that the West feeds that, etc. Now, that imam wasn't preaching violence, but to say that that's disconnected from an ISIS operative that chooses in the month of Ramadan to then kill 50 and injure over 100 in a gay bar is completely disconnected from a reality, and that's why we don't have a strategy. The president said it was an act of terror and an act of hate. I will tell you, as a reformer, terrorism plus hate equals Islamism. That's what he needs to say. That's the equation that should be obvious to everybody.
We're speaking with Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, founder and president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. And you mentioned that the Muslim community needs to stop and look in the mirror and try to figure some things out. And it makes me think that there are some out there that the Muslim community needs to do more, needs to show that this is not what it's about. And I'm wondering, what can your just average American person look at here and change or do differently?
We have a declaration, a 2-page simple declaration at MuslimReformMovement.org. It's also on Change.org. 2 pages that has simply 12 principles. One is the declaration that all people are equal. Women and men are equal. People, regardless of sexual identity, are equal. There's a right to free speech. We stand against violent jihad. We stand against the caliphate and all Islamic states. Simple declarations, and that declaration can be used by the average American to have a conversation with every Muslim they know. Do they believe in this 2-page declaration or not? We sent it to every mosque in Phoenix, in Arizona, across the country to 3,000 mosques. And we've had crickets back since we sent it in February.
Wow.
And some have signed it, but the vast majority have not responded because they don't see a connection between their abandonment of the principles that tie us together in a free society versus the principles of a theocratic Islamist society that we have not confronted as Muslims, and Americans can use that declaration as a point of conversation.
I think that and Dr. Jasser, I sincerely appreciate what you're trying to do, but there is no consensus, might be a nice way to put it, and sadly, it's becoming politicized in many ways, and the idea that that you can somehow root all of these people out, it strikes me, looking at it from the outside, sir, that we only know that they're a terrorist. We only know that they are wanting to commit ill to people when they literally pull the trigger for the first time, or ignite the bomb, or whatever it might be. It seems bordering on impossible to find these people ahead of time.
Well, you're right. And let me try to recalibrate the picture that we're looking at.
Okay.
On the one hand, we have those who say, well, this is the new normal, forget it, there's nothing we can do. And the other hand that says we need to prevent every one of these and fix it tomorrow, or else the FBI and everybody's failing. In between is a sense of understanding where Islam is in its history. America was created, our entire way of life was created in a battle against theocracy. The Islamic world, which is a quarter of the world's population, is beginning this battle right now. So either America can have a long-term strategy that engages reformists to root out the theocrats, or we surrender and try to put a wall around America, which isn't going to work. This guy was also born here, no different than I was.
Yep.
So the bottom line is that this battle is fighting us whether we want it or not, and we are losing. And the only way to put them on the defense is to begin to advocate in the long term for the ideas of freedom and liberty, a Muslim ideology that celebrates Americanism and wants to die for our freedom versus wanting to die for ISIS. And in the short term, having a military solution against ISIS and helping the Arab awakening defeat the dictators in the Middle East.
Well, Dr. Jasser, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for your insight.